welcome back to the Tabletop Call-In Show. It has been, I don't know, what, like 3 weeks?
Three
Because
weeks.
because moving is an ass. Hopefully you can hear me well. My real microphone is not working great, so this will do for now. I'm Adam Bell, and as always, I'm joined by...
Hit me, Jeremy Gage. Find me at Jeremy Gage 5 over on Twitter. Beep beep beep.
Awesome. Yeah, you can find me at Adam E. Bell there also if you wanted to. I don't really go there, and that's fine. How you been, Jeremy?
It's been a thing. I have jury duty next week. For the first time in my life. I'm not excited about it because it takes up a lot of my day, and
Hmm.
I have things I want to do. Hopefully, I can work on some game writing while I'm there. Other than that, draw your dice things, game design things, meeting new people. Very cool. How about you, Adam? What's been going on? You moved.
I I did do that, so that's most of what's been going on. Uh, Moving things, cleaning the old place. It's still a disaster zone. Just trying to get life in order. And we have a roommate, so it's like we've been prioritizing making the new place not a disaster because somebody else is here. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. It's nice so far.
Don't have a tag team. They don't have a tag team partner, so like you two can just, dominate.
That's true. Yeah, you're right. We should just completely destroy everything and just leave it unlivable. Whew. Yeah, I don't. I don't know. I've been thinking about playing games lately. I think I'm getting back. I've released Reliance the other day. Finally, got off my ass, finished the little edits that I wanted to do. Very minute edits that
Hmm.
held me up for several weeks. So that's exciting. Go check that out if you haven't already. If you bought it, definitely check it out because I don't know what are you doing. Go get the thing you paid for.
Saving it for later.
Um, well, should we just jump right into it? We do have Randy in the call-in queue, which is
We should
always
absolutely do it.
it's gonna get our brain juices flowing to talk to Randy. It always does.
I'm flowing. I jogged. Today was leg day.
Nice.
That's I'm fucking ripped. Let's go.
All right, let's do it. Hey, thank you for calling the Tabletop Call-in Show. Who are we talking to?
Hello, hello. So good to have you both back on the air.
Yeah, it's great
Randy!
to be back.
Good to talk to y'all this morning. I'm calling in because I have on my mind the question of how do we set players up to tell great comedic stories? Like how do we set them up to be funny in ways? And I have a bunch of ideas of my own, but I would love to hear what the two of you think.
Oh boy.
Holy shit, that's a big welcome back question. Good for you, Randy.
I can jump in first while y'all collect your thoughts if you
Yeah,
want.
how to make
Yeah, give me an
other people
example of what you've been
funny.
thinking about. Yeah, let me riff off you.
Perfect. Okay, cool. So, I mean, I think a lot of what's core to comedy in general, in or out of games, is contradiction and unexpected things coming together. And so for example, if you wanted to make a funny wizard, you can make a bumbling wizard because usually wizards are thought of as being super powerful. So the fact that they're built into the premise that they're bumbling is there's going to be funny stuff coming out of that. Or likewise, if you wanted like a naive seer, like seers are supposed to be all knowing, like cool, there's an inherent contradiction and funny playable result. I guess I should back up for a sec because I feel like the most important thing if you're trying to design for a funny situation is like getting the audience or player buy-in that this is going to be comedic. Because as soon as things are seen through the lens of like, oh, we're anticipating something funny, everything can more easily bend in that direction. So I feel like the same situation, like a bumbling wizard could be super tragic if you're have all the other trappings of a tragedy.
Mhm.
So I guess if you have the expectations, then like finding all sorts of juicy ways of then again, like I think contradiction to me feels like the best way of like putting things in players' hands that they can immediately run with that might be funny. And I have plenty of other examples too, but I feel like you could do that from a character perspective, from a setting perspective, items, plot, etc.
I think that's a great thought, especially the contradictions thing. Like I think about a lot of I think about how it's basically subversion of an expectation, right? It's where you assume the wizard is gonna be this like, ooh, I've got all the wizardy knowledge in the world. Instead, I'm just like, hey, I'm just learning. Oops, I accidentally cast time stop. My bad. Wrong spell component here. Um, I feel like it's giving those sorts of prompts to players and like character create. I think of like how not exactly word for word, but like how Dungeon World does its character design with how it builds the style and stuff like that. But just sort of like those giving them the promptings to like and no giving them promptings that are only contradictions and not giving them promptings that are like allow them to go into the stereotype of that particular
Totally.
style of character is already setting them up for like outside the box thinking and how they can. And I think that also something that has to play into that is the mechanics that are designed for the game as well. Because if you only stop at the prompt character creation level, you're still leaving a lot of the heavy lifting up to the player after the fact. But if you have ways of failing forward that are funny or successes that can bring in humor and stuff like that. And it just depends. I think it also depends on how far on the spectrum you want to be from comedy to tragedy, right? Like how much of it for your particular design do you want to mix in with the two? So
Totally.
I think that's really great insight.
Yeah, and I think to take your point a little bit further, it's like, are you framing like, is it taking place in a broader framing where people still are coming at it with like, no, we're heroes, we're going to succeed and be heroic, or is it baked into the premise that we're playing to lose, or at least playing to like have a comedy result? Like in my game Behind the Magic, at the ending of it, like there's a spectrum of success that like at the best case scenario you've succeeded by accident, and worst
Mm-hmm.
case scenario is you've accidentally made things way worse than they would have been otherwise. And so I think like if players know that going in, cool, then they're not like fighting against a system that wants them to be heroic otherwise.
Mm.
Yeah, I guess the other interesting bit, like so when you were saying with Dungeon World, where it's like it's baked into the premise, I think that's really great, and I think like players don't even need to think about being funny if they're given like a weird set of things that are contradictory or subverted set of things cobbled together. There's a design I'm working on right now with my brother. The premise is that you are aspiring heroes who've gotten kind of suckered into a for-profit university scam, and so you're like going off on little quests to get accreditation for random talents. But the core of the game is that you're given a quest and then you're given a like specific talent that you have to prove that you have. But the idea is that they almost never match up, so you have to somehow defeat the undead hordes using penmanship, or you have to or maybe the other way around is like you have to reorganize the archive by using necromancy, and you have to justify how you're going to use that whatever that talent is for this quest that probably has nothing to do with whatever that talent is, and then you get like the inherent humor across both.
I agree. I totally
Yeah.
agree with all of that. Adam?
One thing I was thinking is like if you're gonna do a GM'd game that you want to be funny, like a key component in like any like classic comedy act is the straight man. And so I think providing some sort of like tool set for the GM to act as the straight man would be like a good place to start. Like just try to get the GM to be setting up situations that have great potential for funny bullshit shenanigans, but then have like NPCs or something that are just there like that don't get it or
Yeah, I mean the NPC companion is such a great way of immediately casting a spotlight on how absurd the player actions are,
Mm,
and also like sometimes just how absurd the conceits of whatever genre you're playing are. Because even just playing the genre straight, like if you take a critical eye to it, I feel like TV tropes is like a perfect example of this, where it just shows how ridiculous so many of the things that we just take for granted are. So I think whether it's an NPC or I guess something I've seen in the past work well is like a kind of gazetteer type thing. So it's like how does like the press in whatever world that you're playing this in treat what the actions are? How do they interpret it? Well, how do they and also like what is the collateral damage that happens or the weird unintended side effects that maybe happen outside of a session if you're playing campaign play? And that's a great way of like again heightening some of the funny contradictions and absurdities.
yeah.
I love that. I love that a lot. Like, I think there's definitely a space for like even beyond the GM, like taking the GM role, making it just like the world's reaction to the events of the players, and like, man, we really goofed that one up, huh? Like they don't see it. Maybe they don't see it as funny. The world, I mean, and it's just
Mm.
like, well, you know, we're trying our best out here.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I don't have anything else that I wanted to share on that front, but I was good conversation, y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Plug.
Oh, plug. Yeah. Check out StorySynth. It is a super easy to use web app for designing, playing, and sharing prompt-based storytelling games, like for the Queen or the Quiet Year. You just copy a Google spreadsheet, put in your own prompts and content, and then paste that link into StorySynth, and it makes a game that you can share and play. So check it out at storysynth.org. I've been Randy Lubin. Thanks for having me on the show, and I will see you probably next time.
Yeah. Talk to you later,
Yeah.
Randy. Great talking to you as
Bye.
always.
Bye. For all of our podcast listeners out there, if you're not watching the show live, I put the links to a bunch of all the things that designers talk about in the chat,
Mm.
which it would be cool if you listened live.
Yeah, and also to all the podcast listeners out there, I am sorry because I haven't uploaded the last two.
It's okay.
That seems like a dead feed to you, perhaps, but I will give you 3 episodes for the price of one, hopefully this week.
Take your time, you're moving.
Or that's the running joke, is that I just never upload again. Do
Adam, do you have a question for the chat, for the Twitch chat?
I have a question for the Twitch chat?
To put you on the spot here while we wait for another caller.
I've got a,
Anyone from the chat, come in and be a caller. Thanks.
I've got a question for the chat. What kind of I'm speaking and hoping a real question comes out. What kind of rules facilitates good? Fuck, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. I just started repeating Randy's question.
Um, hey chat.
You got one?
Yeah. Hey chat, how y'all doing today? Would you uh would you let me know, have you ever seen a tabletop game, and
Mhm.
not like one that's strictly competitive based, but like a tabletop role-playing game where it uses a lot of fighting game mechanics, because I am interested in adapting those sorts of things to the tabletop role-play space. I'm literally writing it down this very moment.
Fighting game mechanics. Are we talking like
Yeah.
1v1?
Yeah. I mean, technically, most fighting games are almost. I mean, I guess arena battlers are
Yeah.
multiplayer, but for the most part, it's 1v1. But I'm trying to think about like fighting game archetypes, and also getting like keeping the core mechanics of like combat slash social interactions in that attack and defense sort of space.
I played like a fucking a card game at a con. It was Origins. There was like a pro wrestling card game. It was the loudest booth in the world because they were just being hype. They were just being promo. They were promoting shit constantly, like in the wrestling style. And they would have you sit down at the table and like play the 1v1 little wrestling card game, trying to build up combos, and would just commentate like it was an actual wrestling match. I can't remember the name of it though, but there is one of those.
Mm-hmm.
If that helps. Let me see if I can find it.
MD pointed out Justice Sworn is one. It's an Iron Sworn hack that kind of uses fighting game mechanics in it. There's also Tiebreaker RPG by Nick Butler out there that also uses some like cinematic spectacle fighter stuff.
Mm.
I'm really interested in adapting the spectacle fighter to like so you can play your best anime waifu in your tabletop game.
Yeah. Um, I don't know.
Isn't that what you want, Adam?
It is. Yeah, I would like to call in Dan Phipps to the studio.
Don't you ignore me. We'll talk about this after.
I think Dan's called in before, right? So return
Yeah.
caller Dan Phipps is coming
Mm-hmm.
on in. Hey, thanks for calling the Tabletop Call-In Show. How's it going, Dan?
Who is muted?
Dan is muted for sure.
What's up, Dan? What's up, Collie?
They call him
Hey, Violet.
they call him Dan Muted Phipps for a reason. I thought that would get him. This
What a great question, Dan. Well, when I was a child,
Hmm.
I used to
There we
walk.
go.
Hey, Dan. Yeah, second
Sorry about
question.
that.
No, you're
Yeah,
good.
I do have a second question. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now
yeah.
that I'm not muted inexplicably anymore, thanks Discord for making that difficult. No, I did actually have a question, which is because I'm a person of taste, I follow Jeremy on Twitter, and he had mentioned thinking about job systems. And I'm a huge fan of Final Fantasy Tactics. I love me a job system. Um, but one of the things that I kind of associate with job systems is like you take a job, but as end in the game, you take a job and then you grind a whole bunch and get good at it and kind of like through attrition um, build this murder engine where you're a monk with two swords that just like completely destroys everything. And that's all well and good when it's a video game, but like tabletop RPGs don't really lend themselves to that kind of, or at least I don't enjoy that kind of grind, because like combat takes longer and like it's just not as much fun. So I was wondering if what thoughts you'd arrived at regarding job systems, and like what parts of that tech might be really good to bring over to tabletop spaces.
When we say
Um,
when we say job systems, just somebody want to? I've never
Hit me
played.
up with what that is. It's basically the same as a class thing. Sometimes in job systems, you have to level up one type of class or two types of base classes to get access to like an advanced class.
Mhm.
So for a long time in Final Fantasy 14 until the most recent two expansions, in order to become a paladin uh, at level 15, you'd have to get a gladiator to level 15 and a white mage to level 15, and then you could be a level 15 paladin or level 1 paladin in that
Right.
case. Um, in other versions of games, job system means that it's lateral and versatile. So, like, you can switch jobs out at any point during the game. Let you do it during combat. Some games do let you do it during combat. One of the two to go towards Dan's question, two things I've been thinking about. One is there was an anime slash game called Dot Hack Sign that had another season called Dot Hack GU, where the main character was something called an adept rogue, and basically this character Haseo could switch out his weapons that represent the job classes inside of the game. So for example, he was overall depth rogue, but he had like twin daggers and he had a scythe and he had a great sword. So like he could swap in between those for combos and stuff like that. It also like Devil May Cry as well, where like you can swap weapons mid combo, which is really cool. And then in like doing a job system slash profession system, there's actually an anime called Log Horizon, where characters have like a base class in there, but they also have jobs or professions that act as a secondary class. So I think instead of like doing something that's really combat focused, like I need to grind up my gladiator and then I need to grind up my white mage, you could like combat could be one profession and social could be another profession. Like in Log Horizon, there are characters that are like um assassin plus ninja, and assassin is the job. Or there's another one where it's like one character was I think a sniper and a maid, and so they would do maid things like in town, but the maid profession would elicit certain certain combat abilities as well. Like maids have in the anime have the ability to like scan someone and see what their needs are, but also lets them see what their vulnerabilities are. So it adds it like compounds on top of that sniper stuff. So that's like one like some series of thinkings that I'm thinking about. Like maybe you have two professions, one is combat based and one is like world based, and you level those up different ways, but they interact with each other across the board. Or another one is like lateral class change all the time.
Something that I was thinking about, which that sounds that makes way more sense than what I'm about to say, but I think my idea is really funny, which is in Final Fantasy games, when you change job, you tend to change your outfit. Like when you go from a black mage to a monk, you go from your big wizard hat to a headband. But what if it's the other way around and hats are magic? And you
Yeah.
just don't get to be a monk until you find a cool monk headband, and like that way, you like you're doing your dungeon grindy thing and you find a cool hat, but it's sort of like, okay, who gets this helmet that we don't know what it does until you put it on your head, and now
Yeah.
you're a knight because you found a cool helmet and you got cool helmet knight stuff.
So you're talking dress for the job you want, not the job you
Yeah,
have.
exactly. Aspirational. I'm thinking, I've always wanted to make a game that used paper dolls as like a core, that's your character sheet is how you dress up your little friend. And I feel like there's something there. Someone should make that game.
In chat, Aaron Lim, one of the first few guests on the Draw Your Dice podcast, pointed out the dress sphere system from Final Fantasy, I believe that is 12. No, that's not right. 10-2. That's what it's called. Yeah. I was like,
how
wait
could
a
you
minute.
confuse 12 and 10-2?
Yeah, unbelievable.
10 plus 2.
Bro, do you even game?
Listen, I love Final Fantasy, and I've also played a lot of them. But yeah, the dress sphere system is almost exactly what I'm talking about for like a system that allows you to change jobs mid-combat. So like there are a bunch of different spheres like gun mage, gunner, samurai. I think there's like a dog trainer one that's like a harken back to Final Fantasy VIII. But it's definitely a really cool concept in that like it's kind of like a puzzle solving thing because you'll come across certain enemies that have certain resistances, or if you're the samurai, you can't really attack airborne enemies, so you have to swap out to your gunners, so you have the range attacks to attack airborne enemies. So concepts like that I think is sort of like a puzzle solve situation, like kind of akin to maybe how people think about Metroidvanias as well, as like there's a specific key I need for this lock, and that the key is a dress sphere, and then the lock is the enemy's like sort of particular resistances.
This is all over my head, I gotta be honest.
Nah, I love fashion as magic though. That's
I'm into
excellent.
it.
Like mid-fight hat swapping, I feel like is there's something really interesting there, especially if you put a little bit more like a little bit of crunch on it. So it's sort of like, okay, you can keep fighting, or you can spend your turn, like you can spend one of your two actions to like put on a different hat and like have that be a super serious, tactical choice. I don't have time to write that game, but be right back. I'm gonna go write that game. Yeah.
Well,
I love it.
Yeah.
Dan, does that suffice as an answer for your question / conjecture?
That does answer my question. That was more of a comment.
No, it was a very, very good comment / question. Adam, any closing thoughts here as you're learning about job system in real time for the listeners?
I gotta be honest, the whole time all I could think is, what if game where you are plumber? Plumber is job. Like I got nothing.
No, that's something. That's not nothing at all.
How do you think Mario was created?
That's a good
Yeah.
point. They did think
You
that.
You just got to get the setting to meet you halfway. Like, okay, well now if plumber's a job, that means pipes are things. Like,
Right.
okay,
Yeah,
we can
yeah.
we can make that happen.
Rocks? Is the key a wrench?
Wait.
What?
That's it. That's the whole thing.
That's excellent.
Yeah, where's the Reliance class plumber? Where is it?
Well, unfortunately, there are no classes at this time. But if there were, that's the first one. Because honestly, being a plumber is very important. Shout out to the plumbers. Thank you.
Shout out to plumbers.
For what
Thank
you do.
you for the trade secrets.
The ocean's electricians.
What an amazing. That's their title from now on. Ocean electrician.
Why is the chatbot working now? It hasn't worked in weeks, and now it works again. I'm not going to complain. Thank
Oh no,
you.
it needed to hear about plumbers.
Yeah,
So
something was wrong in the pipes. The internet.
Got it all electricianed out.
The internet is not a big truck. It is a series of tubes. Dan, where can people find you?
Yeah, plug yourself.
Kali and I make games at gymroomgames.itch.io. We are about to release a whole grip more content for Duckburg. So that's going to drop on the 19th. So if you want, spoiler, but if you want to be a gizmo speaker and create robots that definitely won't turn evil, if you've got good PR, then they're just misunderstood. Then and have them in Morkborg, and also go to the moon where that really cool music from the NES game was. Then I've got exciting news about the 19th. So go check that out. It's on sale now. It'll be less on sale after the 19th. So, because there'll be more games. So it costs more money. So buy it now and then you'll get all that stuff. So go do that.
Early
Yeah,
access.
and I'm looking forward to
access.
Subway Plumbers also.
Subway Plumbers
The
coming
expansion.
2025.
So backed up. So backed up.
Very tired all the time.
Aw.
Well, thanks for calling in. It's always great to talk
Thanks
to
for
you.
having me.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, job.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Job systems, job trees. We've got lots of jobs. MVs.
So many jobs.
MVs in the queue
Professions.
if you're into it.
MV, I'm into it.
Queue's starting,
Joblins.
the queue's starting to fill up actually, which is cool.
Hell yeah. Whoa, we got another. Today's lit.
Dragon MV through. Hello. Thanks for
Hello.
calling the Tabletop Call-In Show. Welcome back.
Okay, I'm here.
You are here.
This is over the whiplash of having Twitch and Discord open at the same time. Anyways, missed this show. Missed you, of course.
Welcome back.
Time without the show.
Appreciate that. Hopefully you found something to do on your Saturday early evenings for you.
Saturday early evening, yeah. Very good time slot that wasn't filled in by the Colin show. It was very sad. But today I'm calling in on the behalf of Paulino Caputo. So I will just ask you to ask me questions. I have a lot of things on my mind.
Wait, we have to ask you a question.
Mm-hmm. That's how it works now.
Okay.
What a power move. MV, how's the character? Last time you were on here, we were sort of talking about character sheets. How's that going? How's that thought process going?
Oh, character sheets. Character sheets is a good one because I worked on character sheets for some while, and I think I have absorbed all the knowledge I need to make the best character sheet now.
Great.
There's this. I've looked into not character sheet per se, but journaling stuff, notebooks, and diary books and stuff like that. These are not just lined or dotted or grid notebooks, but they have these sections, but they work not as strict, not strict sectioning, but more suggestive sectioning. Oh, here you can put the date of this entry. Here you can put your thoughts. Here you can put comments and stuff like that. And I'm thinking how to adapt this very, very subtle, very neat way of sectioning things into character sheet design. What if I have an area of the sheet that I don't want, I don't have a strict rules for it. I don't have strict ways you can put information in it, but I still want to suggest some kind of more optimal way of doing it. So that's what I'm thinking about. If you don't want to put something in the square, you can put like another number or something else. And I'm very into this way of designing.
Interesting. It's almost like this sort of like emergent modular take, which is
Almost.
really almost,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
that's the way
It,
I'm compartmentalizing it right now.
I think I've said that on like a month ago, whatever the show was on, that my favorite character sheet is like a blank page because I I always like to like section out my own notes, section out my own like characters. I have like my own way of writing things down
Mhm.
that usually character sheets like don't allow me to do. And here I'm thinking of kind of combining modular sheets that I like with this like very freeform style that I actually do. Um, so it would allow the players to essentially like choose where they want to put information, and at the same time, it kind of like holds your hand and like, okay, you can sit here, you can put your stuff here, it will be very comfortable. But also, if you don't want to do this now, you can do it here, and like I like this way of sort of not restricting where information is and how it should be written down.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Well, MV, you know that we are rivals in the space of freeform versus organization, and I definitely
Well,
love being told where
well,
to
a
put
little bit.
stuff on a piece of paper. Only a little bit. Uh, but I think
You're-
I personally think it's very fascinating. I think that there's a lot to be said about allowing that sort of mm, like
yeah, actually,
customization. I
mhm.
think is what I want to
Yeah,
say.
yeah. I think
Because
because
it's sort of like an
mhm,
accessibility thing, right? It's like the way, like I'm getting really into mind mapping, note taking,
mhm, mhm.
and it's really been a nice shift for my brain in terms of remembering things. So I think what you're kind of stating here is that you're allowing for people to map out how their particular way of thinking allows them to connect the dots in operating the system of the game at hand, right?
Actually, it's interesting that you've mentioned mind mapping because I use a system um invented by some like German researchers or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's called the Zettelkasten or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not super good on the pronunciation, but essentially it's like free form mind mapping. You don't. I think like when people say mind mapping, people think of like the classic brainstorm way that you sort
Mm-hmm.
of do it like a tree. You have a center like thing that you're doing, and then you're like, okay, I'm branching out this,
Mm-hmm.
I'm branching out that, and so on. But this system is more like, okay, I have some thoughts. I'm just gonna write everything on index cards and then shuffle them and see what works.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that's the great idea of it, and it's like how my brain works, and like every day I can like reshuffle everything how I want,
Mm-hmm.
and
Find new
the
connections and
find new
stuff like
connections
that.
exactly, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
there's I think the book I read Zettelkasten from, How to Write Smart Notes, if anyone's
mhm.
curious about that.
And yeah, um yeah, now that I think of it, this like free form, but like with like a little bit of suggestion is like my design philosophy in a lot of stuff and note taking, character sheets, um, storytelling or whatnot. Very
I love
interesting.
it. I'm glad
This
that
kind of
you've
got
made that progress.
yeah, this got away from game design a little bit. Sorry for that.
No, it
Hey,
didn't.
graphic
Character sheets are
design.
game design.
It's
Graphic
all
design is
game
game
design.
design. It's all game design. You of all people should God damn it. Should have been like, yeah, this is game design.
Oh
Adam,
yeah,
thoughts?
good. Give me your
Thoughts.
thoughts, Adam.
I don't know. I like character sheets. I
It's
think
good
one
to know.
one thing the modular thing like that you just have to be aware of is just how much like with games that like the players maybe haven't read the rules, aren't as familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Um, I think there's
Mm.
a lot of like, oh, can you roll your whatever, or like how many of these do you have, and then the player's like, oh, where is that on this thing? And so if they've all
Mhm.
organized it themselves, that might be a little less easy. But also, organizing it themselves might help them learn it all. So, you know,
Yeah,
who
I
knows?
definitely think there's a danger of familiarity
Mm.
when it comes to a sort of design like that. Well, as I'm thinking about, as like Adam's talking about this, is that I think there is something to be said by having such a free form way of putting a character sheet in that version of design,
Mhm.
but it requires everyone to kind of be intimate with like what the system is asking of them,
Mhm.
right? Like easier for a quote unquote rules light game. No one knows how to define specifically what that is, but like I can't imagine doing like I don't know, like Blades in the Dark, like doing a loose freeform character
Mm.
sheet might be a little bit more difficult for someone who's not intimately familiar with the system. It has a lot of like moving levers and pulleys and stuff. At least in my
Le-
opinion.
Band of Blades.
Yeah.
Imagine that on just paper, like without even the sheets. Uh, but
Yikers.
yeah, that's an interesting thought because if it yeah, now my brain is like turning the idea of like if the game has a lot of moving parts, a lot of like abilities or like, skills or whatever, um, I definitely want to have them like on the sheet, so the player knows what they are what they're capable of,
Mhm.
and like usually I do like one shot sessions maximum of stuff, so that's why like writing down my character on a like even a PBT or even a uh, Words in the Dark game. It like I have maybe two abilities, right? And like I have my stats. Like I don't need to write the stats where I have zero because I just know that they have like zero dice in them. Like I can't like if it's not on the sheet, that means it has zero. That's like the
Mm-hmm.
information of it. And for a one shot, it doesn't matter because I won't like gain them ever.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're playing a like longer sessions or you're playing a campaign, of course you want to know all the stats you have so you know that you can progress in them. So there's this duality like am I making a sheet for someone who's only going to play this once or
Right.
several times, or maybe you could like I was thinking even of doing like two sheets, like one sheet for like first time players and like one shot and first time and one shot players, and another sheet for when you already like know everything and you just have this like loose framework for you to adapt to your own play style. And like
Experts sheet, if you
yeah,
will.
exactly, like expert variant sheet. And I think
Pro gamer
like
mode.
that could be it.
Hard mode engaged. You actually can't remember any of your stats.
um but yeah, that's that's a very interesting like idea to crack.
I do like the idea of not knowing what your stats are.
Oh god,
GM
Them being
manages all the
revealed to you as you
stats.
play.
that's a new game.
That's
um Yeah, let's do it real quick. A game
juicy.
where you don't know your stats. So does anyone know? Maybe other people know your stats, but you don't.
I think if there's a
Sort of,
GM, I think the GM knows. Because I'm thinking like just something to eliminate that tendency that we all
uh,
have to be like, oh, I want to do. Who has the best
yeah, but
investigation?
Stealth score. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm also thinking, yeah, you could do that, and where the players like discover their stats over time.
Mm.
That could be interesting. But I'm also
Mhm.
thinking, I forget how the game is called, but like everyone played it. It's when you stick a piece of paper to your forehead and it like says a name or a thing and you have to guess what it
Oh
is
my
by
god.
asking questions from other people.
Your stats are on your forehead.
Exactly. And like you don't know them and no
Am
one
I
can tell you
strong?
them.
Hang on, that's incredible.
This is we you see I'm I'm coming in hot and calling show with the game. This is superb.
Someone take it, run with it, steal it.
I have it written down, it's already laid
I'm
out. This
writing
is
it
it.
right now.
Damn,
Well,
this is a good game.
this is a
Um,
great game. This is a
I
great
think
talk.
this is a great moment to like leave
All right.
on,
Segue, yeah, yeah,
on a high note.
yeah. On a strong
Um,
note. Brr. Is that a strong note?
dum.
Um, yeah, who are you? I mean, where can
Yeah.
people
Oh
find
no, who
you?
am
All
I?
that.
Oh no,
Let the
I think I'm
viewers
a game
know.
designer now.
My name is Game Designer.
You can find my stuff at mvmv.itch.io and at Mavis on Twitter. You should also check out my new supplement for Galactic 2E, my new favorite recent game. It's so good. And I made a supplement that basically puts pod racing into the game, and that's pod racing.
Okay.
It's called Breakneck. You can find it at mvmv.itch.io. No, that's not how the link goes. mvmv.itch.io/breakneck. That's how it goes. Now you can kick me, Adam.
Okay. Will do.
Goodbye,
Yeah.
everyone.
See ya.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Cool. There was a lot. That was a roller coaster. A good one.
Yeah, that was great.
Um, we've got two people in the queue right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think they've called before, so that's exciting.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Who's first? Looks like a Discord user, the Carrot Clarinet, is coming on in.
Oh god, I almost right clicked.
Hey there,
Hey,
folks.
hey, thanks for
Hello.
calling the Collins Show.
Thanks for making it. I was really excited when I saw the post on Twitter and thought, well, that sounds like a really cool idea.
Yes.
It's a fun
We're
time.
catching flames.
Uh-oh.
I hope this becomes a much larger project over time because I like the idea a lot. It's something
Yes.
that kind of got missed in between from radio to Twitch, etc., internet setting, talk shows, but like call-in shows. Anyway, so
Agreed.
um.
Do you have a question for us, Carrot Clarinet?
Or topic, or
Maybe less a question, but more like a idea plus some sharing of some stuff I've read, played, more or less.
hell yeah.
Are you too familiar with Patrick? What's his name again? I always I'm not very good with names. Let me just I have
It's okay. Neither am
uh,
I.
Patrick Stewart's Veins of the Earth. Are you aware of that?
Veins of the Earth. No, but I'm
I
Googling
don't
it
think I
as we
am yet.
speak.
As am I.
Yes, yes. So you're familiar with like the classic D&D Underdark, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, and what made the Underdark special in the first iterations of it was just the next up. Oh, sorry, yeah, that's someone in the in the chat just said that. Yeah. Um, what made the Underdark special was its sense of creepiness, some like mystery, the way it like shifted from relatively regular overworld to a completely horrific at the time underworld.
Mhm.
And Veins of the Earth tries to capture that by including a lot of very horror adjacent uh and especially the horror of caving um concepts. They are and once you read the book, it really just becomes apparent just how much caving, the underworld, etc., has been taken into account, and which got to me the idea what kind of like areas of life or like experiences haven't been really taken into account in TDR in tabletop RPGs yet, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
This book
Because
is
for example,
huge for one.
yeah, it's 375 pages. I've got the PDF right in front of me, and it's got a lot. It's got a whole chapter devoted to light and darkness. It's got let me think what else is there. It's got another chapter that is just about encumbrance, exploration, and climbing, because the climbing there is also very detailed, because caves aren't just we imagine caves or like dungeons in a way with like human-sized spaces. They're very much not that. They're very much
Mhm.
spaces which have been formed through time, nature,
Right.
uh, water most of the time. So they follow their own rules that that are completely just.
Yeah, they're cramped. They're damp.
Yeah,
It's
they can be cramped, they can be damp,
It
but the
can be
coolest thing is
huge.
they can be huge. If you ever watch a caving video,
Mm.
you can go from a crawl where you have to squeeze your whole body through to just these wide, expansive um hall, and it does a lot of cool things. There is a monster, quote unquote, in the book called the Rapture, which signifies the way people get panicked, and it basically takes over a person's mind. There are some very sort of D&D-ish sequences and like terminologies. You have to fight it, etc. But when it overcomes you, it can cause you and other characters in the game harm. Basically, for example, launching you off a cliff or something.
Mm.
So it can get very dark just because the game also references like, hey, you will always be hungry in this, and if you don't get food, cannibalism is always an option.
Lord.
So it does tend.
God.
Yeah, yeah, it can. It's very much a new ORS R product, just because of the way it can just get really dark.
Mm.
But yeah,
Mhm.
so do you guys have anything in mind in regards to like concepts or I guess caving can be like seen as a sport, but it doesn't really fit for me in that mental
Mm.
compartment. Things that haven't really been explored in RPGs and haven't really been translated to the language of dice,
Mm.
role play, etc.
Yeah, like I said, I still think fighting games are relatively new, like tech concepts for the game. Like I know combat is a thing, but really like the concept of like prediction and countering and intent, a video game that I think almost sort of has the components of a fighting game and kind of a slowed down version is Slay the Spire, if anyone's ever played it. But with the intent mechanic, being able to see what the monster allows you to make an educated guess about what you should do for your turn, which is basically how a fighting game match essentially operates. Yeah, real time mechanics are also a thing, like actually timed. I there is a when I played D&D back in the day, there's a Halloween event I would used to do called Strahd Must Die. It was an article written by oh shit. His name is James Hayek. It was an article written about how you have exactly 4 hours to take down Strahd, and you're playing the whole session over that time, and you have a big hourglass sitting right in front of the players, and as that spindles down, every hour, Strahd shows up, and a real-time event happens. So I think something about like real time in that space as well is something a little bit on a kind of 10 Candles has real time mechanics.
Mm.
I think I would consider. Um, I also think that when we talk about like distillation of particular experiences, like caving was a really good example. I can't think of like a game that takes a robust take at like the caving experience.
Then you
And then
definitely gotta check out Veins.
uh, and I think that it's also like, flying an airplane, like the robustness of flying an airplane. I don't know how technical that is or how much people actually care. Or maybe there's a role-playing game where you're playing like what do you call them? Craft jobs, but they have a different name.
You mean like artisan jobs, like
Sort
making a
of.
chair?
Yeah, well, yeah, carpentry, but also being an electrician, being a plumber,
Mm.
right? Like those, like getting
Yeah.
into the nitty-gritty of those experiences is um basic,
That's
like those trade skills, that's what they're called, trade
Mm.
skills.
Mm-hmm.
yes,
Uh
yes.
but trade skills are something that's not really like robustly or to my knowledge, to my experience, not robustly explored in the tabletop role-playing space. I don't know if someone wants to role play like hardcore as a plumber, but
More in
per
the
your
simulator
question.
space. More
Yeah,
in the
that's
simulator space.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that's kind of what I was
it,
thinking too. Like the slice of life genre exists, but yeah, I don't think it's super big to just play like a modern day character, just kind of
Yeah.
living life. And I don't. Maybe it's difficult. I think to gamify, and also, maybe it's
what I
weird
have
to do. But good.
what I have seen is someone take like including trekking
Mhm.
in their solo RPG, and I think solo RPGs lend themselves to like those singular craft shops because communal things like caving, because caving you usually do in a group, always lend themselves more to like multiple people. But for I don't remember the name. Actually, I think I have it on my itch.io wish list. It's probably at the very top. I haven't bought it yet, but I did see it and it was really interesting. Let me just give me just a single second to find it. There it is. It's called The Long Haul 1983 on itch.io. It's
Mhm.
a you play a long-haul truck driver trying to make their way home. Every day, you'll hit the road, navigating treacherous highways, fleeing from menacing threats, and dealing with psychological impacts of isolation. And at the end of each day, you make a payphone call, leave a message to the most important person in your life. So it's a
Hmm.
bit more than just like you are a trucker, but it does include like it it makes you feel more. I assume it like gives you tools to make you feel like Spider. No, like a trucker.
Mhm. Mhm.
um. So I think that like it's a bit of an underexplored area. These sort of experiences of life.
Yeah,
I think.
I think that's a good comment. Thinking about like how it's maybe because of the multiplayer thing, and so with the rise of solo games being more and more popular, we might see more of it. Because
Yeah.
yeah, like doing a multiplayer game, maybe like with a GM about people living their lives. It's like, well, what interaction are you doing? Like you can
Mhm.
role play when your characters hang out like after work or something, but that's already what you're doing in real life. But like yeah, with a
Mhm.
solo game or like a one-on-one, maybe two-player game, you
There's
can
someone who
explore things a little bit more in depth.
there's someone who in chat mentioned Crash Cart. It's
Mhm.
about a paramedic crew. It's a Fortune Dark game about playing a paramedic crew, which is I
Oh
think
wow.
that's really interesting because
Mhm.
you've got Fortune Dark lends itself pretty well to those like high stakes situations like
Mhm.
a paramedic crew. Um yeah, I think that like stuff like that would translate really well
Yeah,
to
that's super interesting. Any sort of like team-based job. It's weird.
yeah,
It's weird to call it a team-based job, but a job that you do as a group definitely has
take
has potential.
taking over an oil rig.
Fucking
Not taking over, working an oil rig.
geek.
Roll to not get your foot stuck on a chain. Um,
Ah!
ah,
Geek,
play
No,
out.
it's too real.
Geek Squad
Uh,
RPG.
yeah, yeah. But
All right, take it. It's trade skill jam week over at Tabletop Call-In. Give me your
I did.
baristas. Give me your chefs.
Oh man. Um, yeah, I think stuff like that is really being like explored through the simulator game genre,
Mhm.
like with the most obtuse. I don't think obtuse is the right word. With the most sort of obscure things like Thief Simulator exists, Trucking Simulator exists, Cooking Simulator exists. You can probably look up something simulator on Steam and we'll find probably one of that. Um, yeah. Other than that, returning back to Veins to the Dark, I definitely recommend it. It's probably one of the better OSR books. I've been trying to find out how to combine that with a slash fiction thing, not really, called the uh Tex what was it called? Texas Mystery Flesh Pit Park. Ever heard of that?
No.
I don't think I have.
No, I
Okay.
have not.
I'm just a little weirdo. I'm gonna I'm
We're
kidding.
all little monsters.
That's a cute expression. I'm gonna post it in the chat real quick if that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah,
I
shoot.
Yeah,
have a
go ahead.
different. I have a.
I get
It's
to
a
allow
pub.
it or deny it, so go ahead.
All right. If yeah, sure. Yeah. So I'm just gonna. I have a different name on the Twitch, by the way, so don't be surprised if it's super long. Okay, there. Yeah, the Mystery Flesh Pit. It's a Tumblr blog nominally, but it also is like an alternate universe sort of uh, showcase of the Texas Mystery Flesh Pit Park.
Oh God.
It,
Look at this.
it started off as a post on a Reddit, right, like a r/world building Reddit
Mhm.
thing. I don't know what to call it, subreddit, I guess. And spiraled out pretty hard from that. It goes into very sort of technical, nitty-gritty world building, which I always find interesting because not a lot of people really do that. A lot of people like to paint in broad strokes and very social strokes world building. This is just like we have this 30-year period of just a big old hunk of meat that also is alive in the middle of Texas, and then just like letting it spiral out from there. What happens? People are extracting it for resources and also making a thing a
National park. It looks like.
yes,
Yeah.
a tourist trap and then a national park out of it. And I know I'm ping-ponging between like a million different subjects right now, but I got there from like thinking about caving
Mhm.
and how to translate the National Mystery Flesh Park
Oh,
to a tabletop RPG in combination with the caving, because I think that would be really interesting because it's a very alien sensation that could be translated through tabletop RPGs into something that you can feel. I always like to think of tabletop RPGs as something that you can like, how game mechanics and design of games can make you feel like those extremely alien situations are almost familiar to you, if not almost familiar, as if you could approximate a feeling of being there, the
You have the
panic of it.
context for.
Yeah, you have a context for it. Yeah, and
I'll tell you, just fucking have a go inside of Behemoth, right? The cave is now like a living creature.
yeah,
Yeah.
and with all
We're in
with
the
all that brings
colon.
with it, um,
Magic
it
School
gets,
busted it first.
yeah, uh, yeah.
awesome.
Someone. All right. Yeah. I think that's it. I just like wanted to go in, and I thought, hey, I have something I'm thinking about right now. There's a call show. I can talk about people, spread
Hell
some
yeah.
ideas, I guess.
That's the
Yeah.
idea. Thanks for calling in. Do you have anything you want to plug for the audience?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm an artist. I draw a lot, I guess. You can find me on Instagram under the Carrot Clarinet all together without the hyphens, and you can find me on Twitter on Carrot Clarinet 1. And yeah, I post more art on Instagram than I do on Twitter, but same difference, I guess. I also take commissions, etc. If you, etc., etc. If you want me for like a Hayward RPG project, weird, surreal, strange art, etc. I don't want to waste your time. Thank you for doing this, by
Awesome.
the way. I hope I can see you all again on on next Sunday.
Yeah, we'll be
Yeah.
back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this has been great, and thanks.
Yeah, thanks for
Thank
calling in.
you.
Talk to you later.
Yeah.
Bye. I love in that one of these mystery flesh pit things, they stole the Home Depot mascot.
Wait, which one?
The visitor information desk, the dude on the right, it's like at the top of the page.
Uh,
It is
okay.
definitely the Home Depot
I
mascot.
just don't know what the Home Depot mascot is.
My dad used to go to Home Depot all the time, so I remember
Oh
it
God.
fondly as a
Yeah,
child.
absolutely it is.
Yeah, 100% ripoff.
Good shit. It's such a wild setting. You could just run this setting. Easy.
I'm running it right now in my mind.
All right,
You know who should we bring on this journey?
hmm? Is it
You know
Discord
who?
user crowd
Yeah,
control? Our final caller of the
yeah,
day?
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, I think we should. Hello, thanks for calling the Tabletop Call-In Show. Who are we talking to?
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello.
yes, we can.
Yes.
Cool.
Great, nice.
How's it
Hello.
going?
Pretty good. Hang on, Discord is a bit messed up on my end. For some reason, you're coming in through my computer and not through my headphones.
Oh, yeah, take
Both
your
at the
time.
same time.
know.
Bloody hell.
I know every
I
time I
don't.
get on Discord, I have to change the audio settings for 2 minutes.
Yeah, I had it changed before. I have no idea why it messed up again.
It updates every week.
Input, output. Uh, all right,
Do you want to hear it? Should I speak? Can you hear
Oh,
this?
there we go. There
Awesome.
we go. Got it fixed. All right, sorry about that.
Good.
Uh,
No, you're
anyhow,
great.
hello.
All right, yeah.
Hello.
How's it going? Now that everything's working, hopefully.
Pretty good, pretty good. Just a heads up, I might get pulled away suddenly for some unexplained reasons. Hopefully, it won't happen.
Okay.
Sure.
If you do, should we assume that you're gone, or?
Yeah, unfortunately, but again, hopefully, it won't happen.
Yeah,
You're
sounds
great.
Anyhow, on to my question, I suppose.
good. Oh yeah.
So, I'm writing a tabletop system of my own, and before anybody asks, I don't have anything to plug in. Several months before it's ready.
Sounds fair. Yeah.
Mhm.
Things take a while.
I have a question specifically about the way I'm framing the skills.
Okay.
Because the system doesn't use skills in the traditional sense.
Okay.
The system is heavily stat based, and the skills kind of cater to that. But it's more in the sense of they all give special bonuses to different actions, and
Mhm.
each skill tree is framed like a stereotype. And this is where my problem is. Because in traditional D&D, like each class has its own thing, right?
Mhm.
There is the ranger, the fighter, the barbarian. But in here, uh, the problem is that the stereotypes are completely separate from one another. For example, my sniper skill tree is entirely different in its job to the gunner tree. They can't really operate in each other's jobs, whereas, for example, barbarian can do what a fighter does, and vice versa.
Mhm. They could both swing a sword.
Exactly, they can
Yeah.
both swing a sword, and they can do a pretty good job at it.
Mhm.
Problem is that my hunter is an entirely different stereotype from the gunner. Specifically, a specialization I gave it called the cannoneer. Because the cannoneer's job is to get out of there and put out as much damage as possible with a heavy machine gun.
Okay.
And it's reinforced with skills like Thunder Gun, which is its ultimate skill. For the next 4 turns, you are able to resist mortal damage that does not hit crits. Meanwhile, the hunter has a much more specific feel. He's the sniper from the movies that does nothing for 4 turns, then out of nowhere, he's in a high position, spends all of his action points, says a prayer, and domes the commander straight in the head.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Just a big build up for a single thing.
Exactly, and I and I can't speak today.
I can't.
You're
Yeah, I
good.
get that.
And
I'm not
his
speaking right
skills,
now.
yeah, fair enough. And his skills reinforce that. For example, the one I mentioned, Bless the Steel. citing a prayer or a passage from a book before your next shot gives you 20% more accuracy. And I'm not sure if people are gonna gravitate each to his own stereotype because the system heavily punishes groups that don't specialize in different roles.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So is the worry that you have specialized your skill trees like too much?
Yeah, because usually players kind of gravitate towards the familiar stuff or
Mm,
something that they can feel badass in.
right.
But the problem is that this system heavily incentivizes teamwork and each one specializing in his own thing. It also rewards them for it because each class has its own like unique freeform addition or special skill that breaks his game. But I'm not sure that people would want to do it.
So my immediate answer then is that you have to make them do it, right? Like in no, seriously. So in Dungeon Worlds that they create as versatile or I'm sorry, as diverse of a party as possible, they say that no one can be the same class. Like you can't have two rogues in the same party. So you could do something where in the text you're stating like, hey, this game is built out with a particularly like diverse party combination in mind, so I've bucketed these different archetypes or skill sets into these categories. Like in D&D 4E, there were archetypes for like defender, striker,
Mm,
leader, and controller. And those
mm,
like broke up into their own like specific specializations or like mixes of those. But the idea was that you would sort of have one of each so that you could combat enemies in a very diverse or versatile way.
right.
So I think it's totally okay in your game if you're like, hey, I designed this with this sort of like specific party teamwork dynamic in it. So when you do character creation, no one can be these same types. Like there should be one unique type of each in a party. And I
Uh,
think that's perfectly okay.
Yeah,
that's the
if you're
thing
up
though,
front,
because you don't level up in the traditional sense. You don't have set classes.
mm, you
The
have
way my system works is that you have different trees that you unlock more skills in via attributes. The
Yep.
attributes give some form of static bonus,
Hmm.
but you choose the what attributes. No, you choose the attributes which you put in,
Hmm.
and the more attributes you have, the more skill points you can put into a tree.
Hmm.
5 skill points into the basic tree, which is usually 10 attributes, unlocks the specialization trees. And there is where the real power of the tree lies. Each tree has two specializations, and these specializations are the real classes.
okay.
Hmm.
So there's kind of like a base level of competency that everybody can kind of do just regular stuff, and then as they start
Exactly.
heading into the trees, well then I mean really you just got to make like the specialization trees make them cool as shit.
Yeah.
Oh, they are. They absolutely are.
Yeah, well, I mean, so if
I
everybody, if they can get by with just like the basic the skills, like if that is fun enough to play but leaves you wanting a little bit more something special, then I think like as long as everything's cool, like every group might not have somebody that's like, "Oh, I'd love to be the sniper that sits around, says a prayer, and then takes a shot," but like. It doesn't need to. Everything doesn't need to appeal to every group, as long as there's
Hmm.
enough cool stuff that like players are gonna want to
oh,
like lock onto one thing and be like, "Ooh, that one's for me," because
there
everybody's
is plenty of cool stuff. One particular pet peeve of mine is that the priest or the healer class is always boring as shit.
yeah.
So I made a special skill called the Holy Man,
Okay.
and the specializations there are entirely different from one another. There is the Cultist, which focuses on melee weapons, fire, and terror, and the Preacher, which focuses on close quarters combat with shotguns, staffs, and his fists, and has an ability and has an insane healing ability.
Are those descriptions in there? Like what you're telling us about the sort of like slogan of the archetypes, is that somewhere in the text of the game?
For the moment, no. I plan on giving the skills more fluff text eventually, but the feeling is there.
Mm-hmm.
I
So,
gave each skill a name make it more to make it belong more to the tree.
mhm.
Right. Yeah, I
I
think
think
like
there
having.
are. Oh, go ahead, Adam.
I think we're gonna say the same thing. I think that having like those descriptions that you're giving us, like in the tree, like, oh, what is this tree? At a glance, I can read those, like the two sentence, like the holy man is good at X, Y, Z,
X and X. Yeah.
and then it's like, okay, that sounds pretty good. And then like whenever that little description piques your interest, then is when the player will start looking at all of the different individual bits and start like imagining what it would be like to play with those. And
Yeah.
then you got a stew.
I think there are like probably three scenarios you could tinker with as far as like what's being described to me and as I see it. You could either what I mentioned earlier, kind of bucket everything and kind of group archetypes into specific like categories. You could add enough descriptive or fluff text that allows a player to get a top-down view so that because I think when you introduce those styles of games that have a lot of like min-maxing potential or optimization to them, um, you will intrinsically get players who like already understand that style of game, and they will already be like, okay, I'm already covering the close range stuff. Who's covering our far range, et cetera, et cetera? Who's covering our healing or whatever? The last option that I think is exploring is just trust. Like if you at the end of the day, the a person's game, art piece, content piece is not going to appeal to 100% of all gamers. And so the people that are attracted to your style of game are already going to have a kind of good idea about how the game operates at a glance, and they'll understand that like this game cares about party composition. We care about party composition. So let's make sure we
Oh,
diversify and
that
cover our
I know.
bases. Yeah.
That I know. The like what's the word? Target audience. My target audience
Yeah.
for the moment is very specific.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think
That
those would be like three options to think about.
that actually leads to my final question.
Mhm.
Because another thing unique about my system is the health system,
Mhm.
because there is none.
Okay.
I replace it with a sort of localized damage system.
Mhm.
So let me give you an example. Like in the middle of a fight, your character takes a shot to the thigh. You lose some of your movement. He takes another
Mhm.
shot to his leg. That's it. He can barely crawl.
Mhm.
Fair.
You
Real.
take a shot to your shooting hand. You can't use it. You gotta use your offhand, which has accuracy problems with just a one-handed weapon.
Mhm.
You get shot in the head or in the jugular. In the head, instant kill. Your character is dead.
Mhm.
In the jugular, you can still save your character, but it's extremely difficult.
Mhm.
Every area in the body has a crit area, and
Mhm.
the head is an insta kill area.
Mhm.
I'm not sure how people would react to that because it's a very hardcore system as compared to like a regular health system.
I think
How
it's. Go ahead, Adam. You.
I was just gonna ask like how like the locations are determined because if it's random, then it might feel bad to take one to the head. But if there's like,
It's uh, it's based on human biology.
okay,
It's based on human biology. Like under the arm, over the elbow, the heart, places like that are crit hits.
But how are the hit zones determined for targeting?
Percentage chance hit. You
Okay. And
The
can
enemy
that
has.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Those guys. It's you.
All right. Well, the enemy has a certain hit chance because their weapons have the same stats and disadvantages as the player, or advantages depending on what they have. And if
Mm-hmm.
they hit the player in a certain area, they roll. If they hit the player, actually, because you first gotta hit the player.
Mhm.
If
Mm-hmm.
the player is hit, they roll a die. For that, for the body part that they hit, they roll another die.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on if they get a very high number, which would be about 95 or higher,
Mm-hmm.
they would get a crit.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Something that I think might control, like, I think I understand what's Adam's trying to get at too, is that like if there is, it doesn't seem like, it seems like it takes a lot of rolls to engage in getting like a critical hit on a player. But I think that when it's left up to random chance, it's sort of like a basically what health serves as in games. As much as I don't normally like how health can be boring in games, what it ultimately does, it's a pacing tool. It paces sort of like combat focused games. And so something to consider for this percentile system is that maybe there's a mechanic or a way that players can maneuver the success bands of things by
Oh,
using certain
there absolutely
abilities.
is. There
Mm-hmm.
absolutely is. I already thought of that.
Mm-hmm.
If the player gets hit with a crit, they
Mm-hmm.
themselves roll a chance die.
Mm-hmm.
51 and above, they dodge the crit. 50 and
Mm-hmm.
below, they get hit.
Mm-hmm. Uh, that sounds great. I think there's also options to, you could probably streamline a bit and take a couple of those percentile rolls out if you have skills, armor, weapons that can sort of like I imagine, I'm just making up numbers. I have not read your game, but let's say like it's a 90 percentile chance for that head critical hit, right? What if someone's using a helmet and it reduces it to like the 95th percentile, right? Like there's a 5% chance to take a critical hit now because you're wearing a helmet. So it's sort of
Oh,
like percent. Go ahead.
it does come into play, actually.
Mm-hmm.
That I already thought of that point. But the armor doesn't exactly work in that way because it reduces the chance to get hit, not
Oh, sure.
the like if you wear a helmet and you get hit with a
Mm-hmm.
bullet, that because it hit the armor, it
Mm-hmm.
has a reduced penetration
Mm-hmm.
because penetration also goes towards the hit chance.
Well, then I think
It's
you.
sort of
Oh.
stacking percentages.
Mm-hmm. I was gonna say, I think you've got the pieces. Like I don't think there's anything, as long as you have enough mitigating,
Hmm.
like in a game that talks about instant death. And first of all, you have to. I think Paulino brings up a good point. You have to set the expectation that the game does have insta death possible, like up front.
Right.
Uh, but
Oh,
if there are
absolutely.
plenty of ways to mitigate that, like at the player's agency, I think it's fine. I don't think there's anything you have to worry about because again, it's one of those things where like if you make those concepts known up front, then people are going to decide if they want to interact with the game. And the other thing is like playtesting too, like getting it out there and getting it in people's hands and then getting a feel feedback of like, hey, I don't like that I got insta dead in the first round. And like if you get enough of that sort of feedback, then you as the designer have to either say like, I either am or am not willing to compromise this piece of the
Hmm.
design because I want people to have, you have to decide if it's precious enough to you to change or not. So but from the offset, I think that you have enough mitigation properties to
Fair enough.
elicit a fine game.
Yeah, and I think generally
And there
in
is a.
games,
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
okay.
I'll edit later.
I was just gonna say, I think generally in games, like the easier it is to have like your character be taken away, whether it's through death
Hmm.
or something else, then it should be just as easy to like make a new one.
Yeah.
So like if instant death or anything like it is in the game and is on the table, then like instant character creation should be in the neighborhood as well.
Yeah.
Just because then it feels a little less bad. It doesn't feel like you drew a card that says lose your turn, and you just have to watch everyone else have fun, you could still just be participating.
Yeah, there's a really good video.
Oh, that's the fun of it because character creation is really quick.
Perfect.
Like you can create a character if you know the system within 5 minutes.
Great. Yeah,
Well, then you've got it.
I think you're on the way. It's a big crunchy game, but I mean, there's a lot of people that want big crunchy games. So like,
Yeah, and it sounds like you're taking the precautions.
yeah.
One final thing I wanted to add, there is another mechanic to mitigate insta-death.
Okay.
There is a mechanic in the game called the reaction roll. If a player sees something that dangers them or that they can react to, they can sacrifice action points from their next turn in order to act this turn. And
so like
instead
duck
of all
undercover
those
or-
complicated percentages, they roll a single percentage die.
Yeah. No, that sounds cool. Because then it's like, oh shit, I gotta duck under this rock or probably something cooler than that.
Exactly. There are even skills that work towards that reaction roll. Like the hunter has a skill that gives him bonus 40% success if he reacts to an enemy behind him.
That's dope.
Yeah, I'm into it. I think this kind of thing is cool and like just it's one of those things that once
Yeah,
you
exactly,
finish
Paulino.
doing all the design, like it's just seeing how it feels. There might be a few tweaks in like where the numbers are, but
Presentation things.
yeah.
Yeah. Great game.
All right. Yeah, well, that was it with my questions. Thanks for the help.
Yeah,
Yeah, of
thanks
course.
for calling
Thanks
in.
for calling in.
And you already mentioned you don't have anything to plug, but here would be your chance if you wanted to.
Maybe a Twitter handle.
No, I actually don't use Twitter or any social network system.
Smart.
Smart.
The most I can do is like post a link to the fluff piece I wrote about my system.
Perfect.
Great.
Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah. If you want to throw that in the chat, people can check it out. We can check it out.
Let's see.
Blog it up. Blog it up.
I call my system the Molten World.
Molten World.
I'm into it.
Because it's a system based on Dieselpunk.
Ooh, cool.
Thanks. Posted it in chat.
Yeah. If you're
Nice.
watching or listening to this later, you could just go to the Twitch replay and find that.
EOD.
Very cool.
Well, thank you, Crowd Control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for calling in. It's
And
been
thanks for the help.
it's been great talking to you. We're gonna wrap up the show now.
All right.
Bye bye.
See ya.
See ya. Cool.
Cool.
And
Wow.
That's it. That's the show. We went a little over today, but we haven't been here in a while, so I think that is
You
fine.
deserve it. The listeners have been patient. They deserve the extra 23 minutes.
We didn't even get any hate mail about not being on the air.
Holy shit. Where's our hate mail?
Hey,
That's
yeah.
the only way we know we've made.
I want to get big enough to get hate mail whenever I do something that's fine.
You guys blow. I hate the sound of your voice. Oh, God.
We have been the Tabletop Call-In Show. I'm Adam Bell. You can find me anywhere at Adam Bell. Go get my games. They're good. Send us hate mail. Follow along here on Twitch. Follow us on Twitter. Follow the show on your podcast app. Whatever. Like, share, subscribe. Hit that fucking bell. That's what you're supposed to say. Jeremy,
Yeah.
send us away with your shit.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. I've been Jeremy Gage at Jeremy Gage5 over on Twitter. Come listen to me and all my fabulous guests, including A Dame Bell. I just think it's funny that A Dame Bell for Tabletop Call-In Show for your Twitch.tv has been on the show twice. So please feel free to give Adam a listen. Also, all nerds here, 3 p.m. Eastern time. Please go and give them a hello from the Tabletop Call-In Show, just so they can get those whoop whoops and those views and those likes and those subscribes and those follows, just like us. Hit the bell, hit the bell and the
Hit it.
notifications.
Hit it going, and we're
Get us the fuck out of here.
we're going.
We're gone. Get it? Got it? Good.
All right, that's it. I'm muting us.
Hey.
Goodbye. Song is over.